Uncle Nick's got all types of treats for you when you want to come over.
It's been taken to a very
And school's overrated. What you're going to do the next 6 hours is overrated.
Stay in school. Don't do drugs. Okay, Harper and Quinny. That's, I did it. Let's start the program. We are going to start with the fallout from the very physical game between the Bengals and the Steelers. JuJu Smith-Schuter and George Iloka were suspended 1 game each following their big hits on Monday night. Both players filed appeals. Now, Smith-Schuster's suspension has already been upheld. The league is still reviewing the Iloka hit. Mike Tomlin addressed Smith-Schuster's hit yesterday.
I'll stand by my statement last night that, his actions after the hit are more disturbing than the hit itself. Oftentimes plays like that are teachable moments. And when you look at it, you have an opportunity to talk about ways that you could be safer and so forth. He's a better sportsman than he displayed after the block. And you got to acknowledge that, and he's got to work hard so that people understand the type of man he is.
All right, Cece, what was your reaction to these suspensions?
I like first how Coach Tomlin. Now, you talking about there are leaders and there are leader of men. And in the press conference, I'm forever impressed with Mike Tomlin, how he attacks situation like this. Because these aren't easy. Because you're trying to teach people to play a physical style. Now, JuJu Schuster, to me, is an innocent bystander. Last year, he's the youngest player, just turned 21, just got his driver's license. They're playing jokes on him and everything. He's riding a bike and everything. How'd you like to be? Bicycle. How'd you like to be a millionaire and riding a bike? Right? Antonio Brown is driving a Bentley, and, another player. So, what Mike Tomlin did, I have a lot of respect for that. He addressed the situation. But JuJu, he was playing at USC last year. This is a big rivalry. He got drugged into this, and at the time he made the block, because of the violence of the game, which led to him being involved. And now he's a wide receiver. Now, we can very seldom have a physical presence on the game, but we can also be a part of one of those big hits. So you're always trying to protect yourself, and you're always trying to you want to make positive plays for your teammates and be able to block like the legendary Hines Ward used to do as a Pittsburgh Steeler before him. But as Coach Tomlin said, it wasn't the hit that really got him the suspension. It was the aftermath, him standing over him, walking over him, looking down at him. Also, I believe who the player it was, because it was Vontaze. I believe that was added to it. But he's an innocent bystander. He will learn from this because he'll be part of this rivalry and the rivalry at Baltimore for a long, long time. I like the way the coach handled it. I thought it was a little severe for him. I thought other guys deserved the suspension, but this was his first offense. The guy's played 10 NFL games. So what does he know? And what did he do wrong besides the last action of standing over him? Now, that is not a suspendable offense. So I like the way Tomlin addressed it. I don't like the inconsistencies of guys getting suspended. Iloka was a little bit different. This is his 3rd time being involved with the league office as far as hitting a player, defenseless player. 2 times fined before, but his also was the last play of all these sequence of plays, so it's how the game went. I'm not surprised that he got suspended for a game, but it's really hard with the league office we saw a brawl last week, and the guys end up with a suspension. We saw JuJu Schuster make a block on a guy, and we see him get suspended. So it's hard to weigh that both of these offenses were the same, and they end up with the same penalty.
I thought Iloka's suspension was ridiculous. I want to start there because Iloka didn't stand over anybody. Iloka, no. And you're right, Cece, it's his 3rd time in the league office, but some context for the viewers. In 2013, he got fined for a hit. In 2015, he got fined for a hit. And we're now in 2017. The guy's a hard-hitting safety. That is what he is out there.
And with the new rules, the safety position is the most unfair and the hardest to play in professional football pertaining to hitting defenseless players.
And so my point is, if Iloka, a guy who plays as often as he does and plays his style, once every 2 years he has an errant hit that gets you fined, I don't think that puts him in. I know technically he's a repeat offender, but I don't think he's a guy that's out there headhunting. Like, I don't think that's what his reputation is. You mentioned his height.
Yes.
This is some of this.
Yes.
the other reason I think Iloka's is ridiculous is I can say with full confidence, even with his history, if this happens in a different game that hadn't been as ugly as this game,
yes,
he's no chance people are calling for a suspension. People are saying that's a 15-yard penalty.
Yes.
It's against the rules. With all that said,
JuJu's sister too, right?
agreed, absolutely. If those things happened in a game where they were the only unnecessary roughness penalties, no one's calling for the suspension. Now, I agree with you on JuJu and Mike Tomlin. Maybe it's a little harsh, but the standing over a prone player who's just been maybe knocked unconscious, certainly hit very hard, that's a bad look for the NFL. And so in a vacuum, and even Iloka, if the NFL just wants to say, listen, we're not calling you a dirty player, we're not saying you're a bad guy, but we so badly want these hits totally removed, we're just going to start suspending guys, even if it seems harsh. In a vacuum, I'd be okay with it. But it's what you mentioned. It's that on this same NFL Sunday, I guess this was a Monday night, but in the same NFL weekend, we saw what Rob Gronkowski did, and he got one game. Rob Gronkowski's play has no business in football. It was not even a play. It was after the fact, dirty, for premeditated, and it had, by the way,
and in a game that didn't have the same type of intensity or edge to it that the Cincinnati-Pittsburgh game had.
The JuJu was trying to make a play to spring a teammate open.
Yes.
Iloka was trying to save the game by breaking up a touchdown.
Yes.
Gronk's up by 20, angry he didn't get a call he didn't need to get, and attacks a guy. And I don't think attack is too strong. So when Gronk gets a game, Talib and Crabtree get a game, and then JuJu and Iloka get one game, that's what bothers me, that they all got the same penalty.
So what do you do about it for guys like John Runyon in the league office who have to look at everything and then decide, is this one game, is this two games, there'll be appeals, is this a fine? How do you have some sense of consistency so not only does the league know how they're going to punish these guys, but the guys know what they do and how they can maybe better play the game or better manage
I think the league is at a kind of a crossroad. They're kind of in a tough spot. Now, I think that this is the first time, though, Jenna, that we've seen players suspended like this. I mean, when people wonder where the Crabtree thing, man, these guys should get 3 games. These guys should, I mean, we weren't suspending guys for fighting before. So there's only a few cases where guys were suspended. So I think the consistency, I think that this game was very different. And I think the league office looked at this game different, almost like a brawl in basketball where, you know, you see a guy come off the court and he gets suspended. It's like, wow, those guys were actually fighting and they got a game. And this guy just only steps onto the court. I think because it was just the game makes it seem as if this is league-wide. But this is more of an isolated, how they're going to handle the situation that happened between the Steelers and the Bengals.
I do want to say this as far as arguing in the NFL's defense. Of all the leagues, it is the most difficult for pro football to give out any type of penalty just because of the schedule.
16 games.
16. So a 1-game NFL suspension, math-wise, is a 10-game suspension in baseball, a 5-game suspension in basketball, as far as percentage of the season. So it's a lot easier for an NBA, if there's an NBA fight, say you get 5, you get 3. And I almost wonder, and it would be a big departure, but if the NFL is going to start suspending guys for on-field behavior much more often than they have in the past, I almost wonder if you have to be able to break it up by the half. Like, you know what? If Gronk gets 1 game, then and we want to suspend Iloka, does Iloka get suspended for a half? Like, that doesn't exist in pro football. It's never existed in pro football.
No. It's off of what college football, you're being thrown out of the game. If you're thrown out in the second quarter, then you have to sit a half of the next week.
But there's got to be some differentiation between what JuJu Smith-Schuter did and what Gronkowski did. And they can't both be equal in punishment when one was a premeditated, really terrible, and the other one could actually be a legal hit. Block.
Vontaze Burfict was a defenseless player. All right, so JuJu got suspended for not only hitting a defenseless player, but also the taunting and the game that he was in. Rob Gronkowski, he got suspended for hitting a defenseless player. So by the letter of the law, they're in the same family, but we see it, and aesthetically, we know they're not the same, even though they receive the same punishment.
Right. Okay, coming up, Switch gears just a little bit, talk some basketball. Can the Warriors survive without Steph Curry for a couple